Hi, this is Dave Forster with Basecamp Trading, and one thing I like to do is keep track of how the Magnificent Seven does on earnings. And so I thought we'd take a look at ahead of Nvidia's earnings, which is coming out just in a couple days, that we would take a look at what is the expectation for Nvidia's earnings in terms of how much it might move. And also, how have the other Magnificent Seven stocks done since their last earnings? Where are they trading, above or below where they closed before the last earnings? Because with the Magnificent Seven stocks really driving a big percentage of the S&P 500, I believe that how the Magnificent Seven stocks trade on earnings, and in particular after earnings, tends to be pretty important. So I won't necessarily show it on the chart, but just so you know, so not this past quarter, but the previous quarter, only two out of the Magnificent Seven stocks were trading above where they reported earnings before. So let me illustrate it with where we're at with the current quarter. Nvidia's coming up, right? So hopefully this grid format works for you, but I'll maximize the Nvidia chart. But just so you can see, Microsoft is down a lot since the last earnings. So this is where they gapped down after the last earnings. And Apple is up compared to where they reported last earnings. Actually followed through to the upside. It's retraced a fair amount of that, but Apple overall is trading up compared to last earnings. All right, Google is down. Amazon is down. Netflix definitely down, especially since we have a new 52-week low today on Netflix. Meta gapped up, but filled in the gap and then traded lower. So Meta is trading below where it was last quarter. So for example, if we just maximize Meta, all I'm doing is taking a look at what was the price of Meta before the last earnings and where are we trading now. So even though Meta had this big gap up, it has filled in the earnings gap and then some. All right, so last but not least, we have Tesla. How is Tesla doing? So Tesla reported earnings back here and is trading lower. So we only have one out of the seven stocks trading above where it did last quarter so far. Nvidia, let's maximize Nvidia. They're going to report, so we'll see. In terms of where we are in comparison to last quarter and the earnings, we are a little bit lower. So at least compared to the open. So this is right where we opened after earnings, and this is the close before. So we are above, but not by much. You know, for an entire quarter, we're up about $5. So what you can do to get a sense for how big is the expected move with Nvidia, and you can see that we're trading in a range. So for Nvidia to break out of this range, you know, it would have to likely move on earnings, right? Because we kind of need a catalyst to move it. So here's one thing you can look at to see what the expected range is. If you take a look at an option chain, you can grab an expiration that covers earnings, and this earnings, we've got new expirations. We've got Monday, Wednesday, Friday expirations. So I would go with the first one, and you know, that expires the soonest. And what you can do, because the price is trading in between the 192.50 and the 190 strike, I would look at the price to buy an at the money strangle. If this was trading right at 192.50, then I would look at the cost to buy a straddle. So that is a way of just pricing in what's the expected amount of movement. And so I'm going to look at buying the 190, also buying 190 put, also buying the 192.50 put, and there is about $10.80 some cents priced into the expected move of Nvidia. So if we go back to the chart, so we can add that 1080 to the current price, and that would take us right up to around 201, right? A little bit higher, perhaps. And then if we subtract out that 1080 to the downside, we would be looking at right around the 180 level, which is tested as support a number of times. All right, so that's where we stand with regard to earnings for the Magnificent Seven and the amount of expected movement for Nvidia coming up with earnings. And we got a couple days to go. Potentially that amount of expected movement might change before they report earnings on Wednesday after the close, but that gives you an idea how to tell how much of a price move is already priced in. All right, thanks for joining me, and definitely don't forget to like and subscribe if you like this content. Also, if you would like a trial for Basecamp, just head right here, bctnow.com/join, and you can sign up for a 30-day trial, and it'll just cost you $7. All right, thanks for joining me, and look forward to catching you later.